What's good, y'all? Kyle Loftus here, and today we're going to talk about how you can redefine your relationship with fear, overcoming stress and anxiety. Let's go ahead and dive in here, folks. First and foremost, before we can really get going into this realm, we have to define what is fear. Fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or threat. And fear, I think we can kind of, take back to the whole ideology of, Darwinism and all that stuff, and the development of, human and our species, the fight or flight mentality. This is something we've kind of always had developed within us. It's kind of inherent. We just have this natural fear, and in a way, when, back in the day when we could 1 second be attacked by a saber tooth, another second we're killing a woolly mammoth or something like that. There is an importance of fear, and fear is very needed, and it's still needed today. Yes, of course, and it can definitely benefit you, but it also hurts you a lot. And so in this episode here, guys, we're going to talk about fear. So first and foremost, now we know the overall definition of what fear is. But I think the next step in the process is, defining what your fear is. So in order to define your fear, you really have to sit down and have a mental conversation with yourself and discuss, what are the things that you're actually fearful of? What is actually holding you back in life and business, etc. And so what I like to call this is, attempting to avoid the avoidance. You have to learn to face your fear regardless. You have to come to terms with that. If you don't, you're never going to reach your full potential. That's always going to hold you back. In an earlier episode, I talked about the bottleneck effect, and it's very similar in that, essentially the bottleneck effect is the idea that if you're doing everything on your own, you are the cap, you're the ceiling to your full potential, because you can't do everything on your own. It's just impossible. And so this functions in the same way that if you never learn to, maybe not necessarily that, I'm not saying you have to overcome your fear, but learning to better manage it, deal with it, fight and power through it, that's going to make a huge difference in your life and your happiness and your success. If you continue to avoid your fears, to put them off, to not essentially fuck with them, well, that's going to fuck with your life. I'm telling you right here and now. So that's definitely something that you need to come to terms with, sitting down and really coming to terms with your fears. And so best way I recommend doing that is, really taking some time, getting some pen and paper, write out your fears. What is holding you back? What are you scared of? And if you're struggling to really break those down, sometimes I think, mentally in our subconscious, we kind of shadow and hide things, And so an example is, I have a fear of failure. That is one of my biggest fears is failure, being a disappointment to my friends, to my family, and not reaching the full potential I envision for myself. And, that is sometimes shadowed or covered up by, my attempt to do busy work, or my attempt to take the projects that aren't necessarily where my heart lies, but where good money lies. I'm covering up this insecurity and this fear by keeping my brain and just my business active and doing all these different things, when really I'm just doing those different things to avoid, really investing the time and money in maybe doing my first feature film. I could do that, I should do that, but I haven't. And that's probably a big part of that is because of fear, scared that I'm going to fail, that it's not going to be a success, I'm going to lose a ton of money, no one's going to watch it, no one's going to care. Those things can really impact and affect you. And so I just think that's an important and a great example to kind of throw out to kind of, elaborate on it further for you guys. I know I mentioned that, you shouldn't necessarily strive or push to overcome your fear, because I think, again, fear has an important role. It can be very motivational, and it can be a driving force in your life. And that's why the subject of, this episode is talking about redefining your relationship with fear. However, nonetheless, we're going to use the terminology, the word overcome your fear, to essentially, again, describe what I'm talking about is powering through. the fear is always going to be there. I don't know if you can ever truly overcome a fear and no longer have it. I think it'll always be there, but it's having the courage, the tenacity, and the ability to power and push through it. And so how do you do that? How do you overcome your fears? Well, I think one of the great steps you can take to overcome your fear, and very similar to discovering your fear, is, writing it out. In this task here, we're going to specifically write a letter to our fears. To give you an example, I have written a letter to failure. I said, failure, I will not let you hold me back from experimenting. Failure, I will no longer let you prevent me from investing in myself. And so I think just writing those things out, it sounds like a stupid and mundane task, just really illuminating, enlightening. It really just brings things to light for you that you just never even realize. Because after you write it all out, you've got this full page or pages to look at, and you realize all the different things that this fear is preventing you from doing and holding you back from. And it also kind of gives you an idea of, okay, wait a minute, this is how I could rework my relationship with fear. These are the different things I could do and take slow progressions towards doing in order to better overcome and work through my fears. Another way that you can overcome, power through your fear is to take it one small step at a time. And so I'm going to use a very elongated example that I'm going to crunch down into elevator pitch style here, but I've always had a fear of heights. So I had a great friend, still a great friend of mine, Nick Edwards, and we were best friends in school. I think it was seventh grade when this was happening. So we were best friends in school, and one day we were planning on going to Kings Island. It's this amusement park in Cincinnati, Ohio, kind of right around our neighborhood and stuff. It's where everyone goes to hang out in the summers and stuff. And so we were planning to go there, and I don't know why it didn't even cross my mind. We talked about going to KI, Kings Island. Look at me using acronyms and stuff. Anyway, so we went to Kings Island, and I didn't realize it until we got there that this is an amusement park I agreed to go to with my best friend, who I haven't told I'm scared of heights, and I've never ridden a roller coaster in my life. Up to this point, I had been to Disney World, I think I'd been to Disneyland, and been to Kings Island many, many times. I refused to ride the roller coasters. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. And then well, here I am with Nick Edwards, and I'm like, well, I can't look like a little bitch. so essentially, my way of taking that leap, taking that jump, and pushing through my fear was, well, I could jump on any of these roller coasters, but I'm definitely not going to do the Beast or Son of Beast, which, if you haven't heard of those are they're wooden roller coasters, first of all, so they're shaky and janky as hell. You leave it with a headache. It just looks like it's made for people to die on. Just what it's like, and so I knew I wasn't going to start with those, and so I started with one of these smallest roller coasters they have, but a classic one there called the Racer. And let me tell you, I was so scared to do that ride, but the second we did it, oh my gosh, I was in heaven. It was unreal. I was just so happy. I mean, the wind blowing against my face, the speed of it rushing, up and down. It was just such an incredible experience. I just loved it. And that kind of, in a way, really pushed me over my fear, in the sense that it became so much easier to take on that task that required some form of it. And so, I started to get into rock climbing, started to get into cliff jumping, doing that all throughout high school and college. Graduated college, and now I've gone skydiving multiple times, and I actually plan on getting my skydiving license. I've gone paragliding, literally anything with heights for the most part, besides bungee jumping, I've done. I love it. It's about redefining your relationship. And so I have a terrible fear of heights. I still do. When I get in that plane and I look down 16,000 feet from the fucking earth, I'm scared, I'm definitely scared. But it's that ability to push through. It's that courage and willingness to push through and to say, I'm not going to let this fear stop me. that just, when you do it, oh my gosh, you just feel so good about yourself, and you just feel in like such a better mental place. You feel happier, you feel more confident, you feel more courageous. It just overall is going to lift you up. And again, guys, I think that's just one example of how you can kind of take smaller steps to overcome or push through a fear. But I think, you can also just go cold turkey. So if you have a terrible fear of spiders, I think it's time that you maybe just, go find a spider guru in your local area and, put your hands on a tarantula, just do it. Just do it. I promise you'll be okay. And so following up with that, the next part is, again, we're reworking our relationship with fear. And so this is all about being courageous, having courage, having tenacity, and having confidence, believing in yourself. You have to, again, redefine your relationship. And how you do that is by analyzing and understanding what exactly your fear is, what it's preventing you from doing or accomplishing. And then it's how can you take either progressions towards overcoming or pushing that, or how can you rework your relationship, redefine your relationship with that fear. And so again, I'll use my example of failure. So I have a fear of failure. So I could either let that prevent me from doing any work, let it cripple me so much that I just sit in here like a little baby and whine and cry and complain that I'll never make it and that the world's unfair. Or I can grind, I can hustle, I can make content, I can throw it and push it out each and every way, and do podcasts and YouTube videos and commercial content, music videos, put out so much content that anyone and everyone can judge me, make fun of me for if and or buts. I think that is, again, that's another fear beyond the fear of failures. I think we all have a natural fear of judgment. We all want to be liked. There's a kind of a natural human condition of that. We want to be liked, but at the end of the day, not everyone's going to love you. That's just the fact of the matter. And so that's another fear of mine that I have worked to overcome and still working on overcoming. But I feel a lot better about it because, again, I've reworked my relationship with it. I can either let that hold me back, that people are always going to judge me, or let it push me forward. The fact is, people are always going to judge me. And so I redefined my relationship with that fear. People are always going to judge me. So why not put everything out? Why hide anything? Why not show every single side of me? Put out content in video format and music content and written content and spoken word and voice, like literally put out every single form and every single format I can and on every single platform I can. Just project myself out there, give myself up to the world and let them decide, kind of thing. And so again, guys, I think that can be a very powerful thing. If you rework your relationship with your fear, it can be extremely motivating and inspiring. Having this fear of failure, I have a fire kind of, burning in my chest there. Every single day I am invigorated and enthusiastic and tenaciously ready to get after it and get after my dreams. And now next, kind of moving this forward, I want to talk about, more of stress and anxiety and their relationship with fear. And so again, I think first things first is, coming to terms and recognizing that you have stress or you have anxiety because of your fears going on. And so, there's two ways you can really recognize that. I think it's behavioral and it's cognitive. So we look at the behavioral things. Tendencies are going to be things like you're going to be restless, you're going to be irritable, fatigued, like a lack of sleep, just kind of tired all the time. Cognitively, it might be a lack of concentration. We don't feel motivated. We have unwanted thoughts going on, or we have a constant sense of like racing thoughts going on in our head. Recognizing these things, these signs, these symptoms. I mean, there's a bunch more. You can look them up yourself, but recognizing these symptoms and recognizing that we're not in a good mental as well as physical place right now. Recognizing that first, and then taking steps to recorrect or realign, our path to kind of correct that stuff. And so got my notes out here. Just want to talk about a couple different techniques I wanted to write down that help me out when I'm feeling extremely stressed or anxious. I'm just going to kind of run through some of these. So first and foremost for me, exercise. I think that's the biggest one. I am just a huge advocate for health and wellness, just a big part of my life. And I think overall, just eating well, treating your body right, getting good sleep, working out and pushing your body constantly. I think that just makes you extremely successful in every facet of life. It makes you much more happy, confident, just overall way, way better. But I think that for me is a huge stress reliever. Going to the gym or just going for a run does absolute wonders for me when I've got a million thoughts racing through my mind, or something just happened with my business or a client and it's got me stressed. That can really help me clear my mind. Another form of methodology I like to use is mindful meditation. I am not necessarily the best at this. I will openly admit that. I am not the best at being a still person. That's why exercise is like my top thing. But I do like to try, and I do like to push myself to kind of, have nothing on my mind, to get in this place of like just mental nowness, where you're not thinking about the past or the future. You're just 100% present and mindful and in that moment. And I think that can do a lot for just relieving your mind, because if you think about it, you're thinking like all the time. So giving your mind a break, a rest, can do wonders, for alleviating stress and anxiety. I think some other things are just learning when to say no, and also not procrastinating. So don't fall behind on tasks, schedule things, be organized. Do the tasks when they need to be done. Don't fall behind. That's really what's gonna stress you out, makes you super anxious. And learn when to say no. This is something I struggled with when I was first beginning my career path as a filmmaker. I was saying yes to every single gig, and it was just overwhelming me, especially with projects that I just wasn't even passionate about. I just really was doing them to make the money. Don't do that, guys. To an extent, at some point you gotta pay the bills, but learn to say no. Learn to say no when the budget isn't there, when they're not valuing you as a creative, as a human, for your skill sets, and learning to say no when you're just overworked or overwhelmed. Like, just say no. Another thing you can do is just list out the things you're grateful for, or shift your focus to the positives of the day. If you're having a rough day, or you're really struggling, or something just made you really stressed, get out a pen and paper, write down 15 things you're grateful for in your life. That'll really help your perspective out, especially if you go the big macro important things like, I've got a family, I've got a roof over my head, I've got eyes I can see, I can listen to this podcast, I can talk and communicate. Just those things right there, make me realize I've got feet, I got legs, I can walk, I'm not immobile, I'm not paralyzed. I am truly blessed. That is one of my biggest fears is that. And just saying that out loud right there, reminds me of for how blessed I truly am. So again, guys, just coming and bringing those things to light, reminding yourself of who you are and where you're at. Another option is you can, work to find more purpose and meaning in your life. So maybe you have a lot of stress and anxiety, and maybe that's because, you feel like you don't have any meaning or purpose in your life. You have no driving force that's really motivating and pushing you to get up every day, to get after it, to live your best life and to give back to the world. And if you don't have the desire and the feelings to do that, I think that's an issue. I think everyone should wake up with the feeling of purpose and meaningfulness and a desire to live out the day. And if you don't have that, again, I think you need to sit down and really take some time and just sit and be with yourself and your thoughts and work to redefine what your purpose is and your meaning of in life is, and reignite that flame and reapply it to your life. And I think that can realign you and help you, again, better handle stress, anxiety, and work through your fears. Now, this is kind of a goofy one, but it's actually factually kind of backed. So it's factually proven that just hugging someone actually releases endorphins, so it makes you feel better. And so, as goofy as this sounds, if you're feeling stressed or anxious, I recommend hugging someone. Or if you got a significant other, I suggest a wonderful cuddle session. canoodle away. I mean, for real, it sounds funny to say out loud, and it sounds like I'm just joking, and I am somewhat, but I'm also very serious. I mean, I know for me, yes, I love hugs. I'm a hugger. I'm a hugger, not a handshake guy. I mean, handshakes are cool and all too, but I love hugs. Hugs are great. So, yeah, for me, I think having a hug. And someone I like to hug a lot is our dog Natty. So me and my roommate Ryan, who you guys never see because this isn't his world of filmmaking, but he has a dog who I consider my own, although I am technically Uncle Kyle to Natty. But you know, she's great. I love hugging our dog. And I think that's like another example there too, is having a dog, having a pet. I don't know if that's the right reason to get one. I don't think you should go get a pet because you're dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety in your life. Don't get that twisted. I think you have your priorities messed up if that's the case. But with that being said, if you do have a pet, I think just engaging with your pet, taking them for a walk, just playing with them for 30 minutes, I think that can do a ton to alleviate and take your mind off those things that are stressing you out. Additionally, you know, with that in mind of, you know, going for a walk, there's also the idea of just stepping away and taking a breath. Like, just step away, like relax. You can always get back to that work, get back to that project, whatever's stressing you out. It's your own fault if you continue to let that snowball and build and get worse and worse. You have to be able, and you have to be the one that steps away, the one that takes initiative and you know, applies the different steps I'm talking about in this episode right now. You know, you have to be the one to do that. And so, yeah, guys, these are just a couple things I wanted to talk about, some exercises, some techniques and tips you could use for managing and better dealing with stress and anxiety as they pertain to fear. Now, I hope you learned a lot in this episode about, you know, how you can redefine your relationship with fear. I think that is a huge thing that'll bring you a ton of success and happiness in 2020. And it's definitely done so for me, and not just in 2020, I mean, but like for years, in applying this. And you know, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, but I'm, you know, growing. I'm getting better at it every single year, every single day. And that's what you all should work to do as well, I think. Anyways, yeah, this has been an incredible episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like and leave a review. We really appreciate it. And I'll see y'all next time.